A deliberately developmental organization is, first of all, a mouthful, so we call it a DDO for short. And it's sort of an answer to the question, if an organization so valued developing the capabilities of its people that it would want to create a culture that could immersively gather every member of that culture into an ongoing developmental, personal kind of learning journey, what would that culture look like? What would such an organization look like? And that's what we set out to discover. And, you know, in the process, what we learned is that in the ordinary organization, most people are doing a second job that nobody's paying them for. And that second job has to do with looking good, hiding their weaknesses, covering their inadequacies, managing other people's favorable impressions of them. And you can say that's human nature, but it also turns out to be incredibly costly in ways that we don't think enough about. If I keep hiding my weaknesses, the likelihood that I'm going to overcome them shrinks to near zero. And the organization has to keep essentially paying for the consequences of my limitations, and they're paying me full-time salary for part-time work. So imagine an organization where people would feel safe enough that they would kind of consider they were hired not because anybody thought they were perfect, but because people thought they were good and that they could learn, and that one of their jobs there, you know, is to learn, and where you get actually supported for, you know, revealing your mistakes. And you could say there's kind of an entrepreneurial stance toward people development. You know, the watchword of entrepreneurialism is not to avoid failure, but to fail frequently, to fail fast, and to fail forward. So imagine a culture where people were encouraged to do that so that they would keep learning and getting better, and then you would be imagining a DDO, a deliberately developmental organization. I think another really important feature of these cultures that anyone would quickly notice if you spent a little time in them is a kind of transparency, a way in which people, and often the way they'll say it is, I am who I am at work. In other words, they're not living a divided life. This is what we mean by this notion that in ordinary organizations, we're all doing a second job. We're trying to look good. We're always trying to kind of be at our best. In these organizations, that quickly gets seen as a way of essentially avoiding one of the most precious and valuable things that the culture has to offer you, which is the opportunity to just be the same person at work that you are when you're not at work. And that means, you know, the good, the bad, and what you might think is the ugly. Bridgewater talks about this as radical transparency. And that means that, you know, in the ordinary organization, everybody agrees it's unprofessional to talk critically about people behind their backs, and everybody participates in it. And some of you listening right now are thinking, I don't do that. Okay, you may not be a speaker, but I bet you've been a listener to such communications, and you didn't say to the other person, I think it's unprofessional and wrong for you to be talking about Ralph to me behind his back. So one way or the other, passively or actively, we have all participated in what we know to be unprofessional, you know, behavior. In Bridgewater, there is no back to be behind. Why? Because, hold on to your hats, in every office and in every meeting room, there's tape recording equipment, and every conversation is being tape recorded. Not in a creepy NSA kind of way, but if I'm having a conversation, if you report to me and I'm having a conversation with you. I'm having a conversation about you with my boss, and you're not in the room. So I've now been talking about you. You don't have to ferret through 400 tapes and see if somebody mentioned your name. I have an obligation to send you an email and let you know you were discussed, in this meeting, at such and such a time on such and such a day. Feel free if you want to listen to the tape. So there's absolutely, I know it drives people, people get very struck, by this, but, it's just one of a number of features that quickly give you the sense we're talking about a whole different way of being at work.